I'm 49 years old and I wasted 30 years worrying about aging. I didn't realise how much time, energy and life force I put into something that is actually completely inevitable. Hi, I'm Maggie. For the last 7 or 8 years, I've been on a journey to heal what has felt like a relentless and all-consuming fear of aging. In this video, I'm going to share how I spent decades terrified of aging, why I stopped Botox and fillers, and what I discovered was the real fear under all of that. I'm also going to share with you what genuinely helped me. So if you've ever found yourself examining yourself closely in the bathroom mirror or comparing yourself to celebrities who look like they're aging in reverse, it is my hope that this video will give you both hope and peace.
Fucking ancient.
Now you may look at me and think, oh, well, there's a natural looking middle-aged lady. She doesn't look like she's overly concerned with glamour or being put together, and she looks fairly normal looking. I think I can trace back when I first really started to be conscious of my skin was around age 19, 20, when we lived next door to this lady who sold skincare products, and my mum became friends with her. And she had this machine that you would stick your face in and it would just illuminate all your freckles and age spots and sunspots and skin damage. And it was so shocking to me. I remember being horrified at what was illuminated. And then, you know, obviously she recommended products and I started on these. I think it was like New Ways or New Skin. I think it was New Ways back then. It was one of those multi-level companies. But I got really sucked in and quite obsessed with, you know, the order of things and how you had to stroke the skin up and not down and all of that stuff. And I really started to pay attention to my skin, to other people's skin. And I noticed I was a bit of a worrier, and I was getting these, what they call number 11 lines. And I used to look at them in the rearview mirror in the car and just be like, oh no, I'm getting wrinkles. Like when I did not have wrinkles. And that's also when I kind of became a bit obsessed with staying out of the sun, because back then it was really pushed that the sun was bad, that it aged you. So I started wearing a driving hat and scarves and driving gloves, and I am still one to wear a sun umbrella.
No one is as dedicated to sun protection as me. I challenge you all. I don't care that I'm in the coolest place in the world. I will not have freckles.
But I did become quite obsessed with it. I would never leave my home without sunscreen. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to age. I'm going to stop it from happening. I'm going to be the one that's able to stop this train. And every year that passed, when I did start to develop natural skin aging, I was terrified. I've really felt like I was failing. And there was this intense panic within me that's really hard to explain or really articulate. And it's kind of funny that I thought that I could stop that process. And I feel like lots of people think that. Younger people think that's not going to happen to me. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen, but it does. So as I moved into my 30s, I had considered Botox, but for me that was still a very out there thing to do, and none of my friends did Botox. But eventually I did give in to the urge and I went and got some Botox done, and it was a strange thing. I looked strange. I looked very weird, and I've had Botox probably about 5 times in my life, and every single time I looked a bit weird. I had fillers twice in my cheeks because, you know, they're supposed to like lift here and, you know, and every time I got something done, there was something inside of me that was like, yes, I'm stopping this train. And I remember one of the clinicians said to me, you know, 1 stitch now is worth 9 later. And just the language and the enthusiasm around it, you felt like, yeah, I'm taking care of myself. Apart from Botox and fillers, I spent thousands on skincare. And beyond the skincare, I spent so many, many, many more thousands on different lasers, clear and brilliant, IPL, laser genesis, the Fraxel laser where your whole face kind of peels off and you're swollen up like a beach ball, thermage, old therapy. I mean, some of these treatments are $2,500 a pop. So a lot of money. And every time I spent money on it, I always felt like, yes, I'm doing something about it. I just had the best facial in the world. Don't know if you can see how amazing my skin is. We're not even going to get into the regret of all the money that I could have spent on other things. But anyway, I remember actually, I'm a podiatrist, and one of my patients, she looked, I sensed that maybe that she's had Botox, even if she didn't have it now. She just had this look about her, but she was a pensioner in a housing commission flat, and so she very little money. And I said to her, have you had Botox? And she's like, oh, I don't get it anymore, but I did. You know, I used to, you know, it's so expensive. I spent my whole pension on Botox. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, and I remember saying to her, now that you've stopped Botox, does anyone love you any less? And she said, no. And I remember that was a big moment for me and for her, because I was saying it to her, but I was also saying it to myself. Has anyone ever loved me any less since I've stopped all of these procedures? And the answer is no. I know I'm not alone in this. You know, from talking to many people, and I have another patient I talked about in another video who's 92 years old and was annoyed with her daughter-in-law because she had this wrinkle cream. It was like $12. I'm sure it didn't actually do anything, but she had good skin, and my 92-year-old patient was convinced that it was because of this cream, and she's like, I need to get the name of that cream. And I was just kind of watching her going, wow, like 8 years off 100 and this is still a thing. And I still have many patients saying, oh, how old do you think I am? Or not bad for 75, or not bad for 82. And the amount of people that want me to guess their age, I'm like, this is so deep. This is so deep for us women. So what changed for me was in my early 40s, I began a spiritual journey. Well, I was already on a spiritual journey. I was always seeking and reading and wanting to grow, and I was so interested in all this stuff. But I met some really important people that really put me in the right direction, and I really began, like, I think I had another bigger spiritual awakening. And it became very clear to me that this obsession and focus on the physical was not only causing me a lot of harm and making me miserable, it's just, I can't live like that and be able to grow and evolve in the way that I really wanted to. Those two things can't exist, which is why I'm also, personally, I get very suspicious when I see spiritual teachers that clearly have like all the work done, Botox. You see ministers on television, and in social media, I do see spiritual teachers with frozen faces, and that is just incongruent. For me, when I see that, I'm like, you're not walking the walk, because it shows me that you are not fully accepting what was given to you. So I need to make the point that I didn't just wake up and go, oh, I'm going to stop Botox, I'm going to stop all this stuff, and I'm so happy about it. No, it was horrendous. I was mad about it. I was angry. I was judgmental of people that got it. I really, really struggled with it for years. I was looking around going, they've got it. Oh, you know, why can't I get it? I could have, but it was a commitment that I'd made that I was going to stop doing these things. I had a mentor at the time who said it's a red flag. Anytime you like really want to go and get Botox, red flag. Something's up. How am I grounded? Am I aligned? How am I feeling in my body? What's going on for me? Like, what is my identification? But I'll get into that a little bit later. I want to talk about why it's such a thing for women. Why beauty and aging is such a thing for us. I want you to be really, really, really honest with yourself and ask yourself if you've ever wondered if when you age or your looks fade, if anyone's going to stop loving you, what's going to happen to you? Are you going to lose respect? Are you going to become invisible? Are you going to not matter? Does your value decrease? So the reason this is so strong in the female psyche is because we have been punished for these things throughout time, throughout history. And that still lives in our consciousness, in our cells, like the fear of being persecuted because you're too beautiful or not beautiful. Back in the day, if you were really attractive, you were considered a seductress and you were burnt at the stake as a witch. And if you were older or disfigured or particularly unattractive, the same thing could happen. You could be accused of being a witch and burnt at the stake. This is fact. Also, a really common thing for men, for husbands who wanted to get rid of their wives, who wanted to trade them in for a younger model, which we know that's still in the psyche, they could literally commit their wives to a mental asylum against their will. And it's still common today to attack a woman, particularly like in politics, you see it all the time. Instead of making a strong argument against the female politician, they'll say something about her face, her red hair, or how she looks. Red hair, I'm referring to an Australian former Prime Minister. Their nose, like whatever it was that they could fixate on, it would be personal and it would be physical.
I was offended when the Leader of the Opposition went outside in the front of Parliament and stood next to a sign that said, "Ditch the witch." I was offended when the Leader of the Opposition stood next to a sign that described me as a man's bitch. I was offended by those things. Misogyny, sexism, every day from this Leader of the Opposition. Every day, in every way.
And learning all about this, it made genuine sense to me why I felt terror at the idea of aging. It wasn't just vanity. There was more to it, because all of this history lives in our cells. It lives in the consciousness of the planet, and we are tapped into that. So I've been considering talking about this for ages. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. But the reason why now is because recently there's a fitness influencer that I like on YouTube. I've been following her for a while. She's 55 and, you know, she's got a great personality and her videos are informative and I like her. She recently had a facelift. And when I saw that she had a facelift, I was really disappointed. And I was like, what? Why am I disappointed? I thought she was beautiful. Yes, she was getting older like all of us, but I didn't think that she wasn't beautiful, or I didn't want to look at her, or she didn't have something to offer. And for her, it was very much, her whole thing was, I don't look the way I feel, which I think most of us feel younger than we look. I think I have patients that say, you know, I walk past the mirror and I don't recognize that old lady, so I just keep walking. It's the thing where we feel younger than we look. Anyway, she decided to get a facelift, and then she decided to document it. So all these reels were coming up like, this is me 2 days post-surgery, this is me 3 days post-surgery, and so on. And I was kind of like, a car crash. I couldn't stop looking at it because I was so used to seeing her one way, and then now she was like all bandaged up and everything, but she was like talking like, yeah, I feel great, and she's like hardly been able to move with the swelling and stuff. And then what happened was, because I had been looking at this woman, my whole feed, my entire algorithm was facelifts. It was facelift, 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 like all over the place. Normal people getting facelifts, like regular people like you and me getting facelifts, not celebrities. People talking about, yeah, how much was that? Mine was 30,000, or I'm saving up, mine's gonna be 50,000, and I've got to go to Miami, it's like 70,000. People are spending a lot of money on facelifts. But it's becoming so normalized. And I also understand it, because facelifts have come a long way. They are much better than they used to be. Back in the day, Madonna was criticized so harshly for aging. She had a facelift, it was a terrible job, she looked weird, and then she got heaps of criticism because she looked weird. And now she's had another facelift, and it's a better job. But the surgeries have come such a long way. And a lot of celebrities in their 30s are getting mini facelifts and like the beginning stages, so it doesn't look like they've just aged and gone backwards. They're kind of doing it as they go. And I have to admit, the surgeries are really good, and I can see why women are like, oh, the thing that concerns me is, like the Kardashians, whether you love them or hate them, they have a huge influence on the world. Their reach is deep, far and wide. And they've also gone a long way to normalize these procedures. And Kris Jenner, she's 70, she's just had another facelift, and she literally looks 40 years old. But there's a cost, and I want to talk about the cost, what people don't realize. There are three main archetypes for women. There's the maiden, who's like the young girl, teenager, 20s. There's the mother, who's maybe 30s, 40s, and then there's the wise woman or the crone or the hag. And the hag, it used to be, a complimentary term, and people have turned it into something derogatory, but hag or crone or wise woman is the other archetype. And we are meant to move from the maiden to the mother to the wise woman. There's an initiation for each phase. And when you become obsessed with your face and with your body and with all of this, with aging, it's very difficult to psychologically and emotionally develop into the wise woman. And we need wise women more than ever, more than ever. In our society, in Western society, the elderly aren't revered like they used to be, and they don't have the roles that they used to have. The wise woman is so valuable in our society. She does not need approval. She's past all that. She understands the cycles, the beginnings and ends and the seasons and losses and renewal. And she plays a really important role, not just for the maiden mothers, but also for men. The wise woman plays a role for society in general. I know there's not a lot of examples of this in society. I am so lucky to have several examples of wise women in my life, of women who are older, who are strong and knowledgeable and so wise and so present, and they're just like, here I am. Like, there's no, oh, don't look at me, or there's no, oh, look at my skin. There's none of that. It's just like wisdom. Like, I am here, and how can I serve you? What do you need? Allow me. And guiding, like the guidance from these women is just unmatched. It's comical to me to think of these particular women worrying about their elastin or collagen in their skin, because they know that the physical body is only one part of us, and it's not who they really are, and it's not the majority of who they really are. And I do want to acknowledge that there are some women pushing back on this in Hollywood, like Jamie Lee Curtis and Justine Bateman. She did a great book called Face, trying to raise awareness about women and aging in Hollywood. So there are people, or Pamela Anderson no longer wearing makeup, that there are examples like this, but it's not the majority. And just on my point of wise women and the Kardashians, someone like Kris Jenner, who's 70, should well and truly be a leader, a wise woman. Now, she's an amazing businesswoman, yes, like very accomplished, clearly, but that doesn't make her a wise woman. That doesn't make her a crone in any way, shape or form. They're not the same. Just because you're successful doesn't mean you've integrated and been initiated into the wise woman. So I want to talk about the things that helped me heal this, and I am still healing it. There is a ways to go, but I feel like I'm really over a big chunk of it. So number one is identification. Our physical body is only one part of who we are. Our physical body, one of my teachers says, it's like the bit dangling off the bulk of us. So we have a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body, and a soul body. So we have a soul. There's more, but for this conversation, we have a soul, and the physical body is like the vehicle that soul enters to animate, and it's just such a small part of who we really are. So it's kind of like a fingernail. Imagine that our physical body is the fingernail, and this fingernail thinks that that is all that there is and that is all that it is, and it doesn't realize that it's attached to a finger, which is attached to 4 other fingers with 4 other fingernails, which is attached to an arm, and so on and so on. We're the fingernail. We walk around in this 3D world, and we think we can only see the physical. We experience the world with our 5 senses, and we think that's all there is. So we believe that we're the fingernail, but actually there is just so much more. And so it's understanding that that is just such a small part of us. So we have a physical body, but we are not our physical body. So that really helps me to identify higher. When I remember to identify as a soul and not the fingernail, it really releases all that panic and terror and angst. The second thing that helped me was releasing the judgment, because the thing about judgment is you become what you judge. Whatever you judge, you become, and this is truth. It's spiritual truth. Look at it in your life. If there's a particular type of person that you judge or a thing that you judge, you will become that if you aren't already that. You may not think you are because you don't have the awareness maybe to know what's happening, but we do become what we judge. So our cells are listening to us. They're listening. The trillions and trillions of cells, they're intelligent and they're listening to us. So if we're constantly giving them a hard time, telling them they're ugly and all of this stuff, it's going to affect our health. Just accepting what is can also just be such a relief. You don't have to love it. You don't have to be like, I love every wrinkle on my face. I mean, that would be ideal. But if you can just accept it, that's moving away from judgment, and that will really raise your frequency, and your experience of life will be so much better. And following on from that, I would say the third thing is to train your perception. So, and this does come back to judgment. I used to, because I had this fear, I used to be terrified seeing my mum age. I would really judge her. I'd be like, oh gosh, that's going to happen to me because, you know, your genetics and all this. And I realized that I'd healed this. When I look at my mum now, I just see beauty. Like, I just see beauty. I see her light. And that's another thing, just back with the wise women. Women that genuinely accept themselves as they age, they can have this light that people who are constantly doing things to themselves just don't have. So it's good to practice looking at older women and finding things that are beautiful about them. I know it may seem silly, but if you have a lot of judgment on aging, I guarantee you're judging women. You're judging women left, right, and center. So if you can look at women, and if your first reaction is like, oh gosh, how, you know, their skin, be like, okay, let me find the beauty. Let me see the beauty. Let me just practice loving people, practice loving what you see, and because it's nothing to do with them. Your judgment of them, my judgment of them is nothing to do with them. It's everything to do with ourselves. It's a mirror, because we see who we are. Noticing how you judge people that are getting older, that's a reflection of you. That's a reflection of me. What we see is who we are, which is super, super humbling. The fourth thing I would say is to feel your feelings. I have cried many, many times. I have bawled my eyes out. I have really been through it. And every time I just stay with myself and don't try and distract myself or do something else or anything to avoid it and deny the feelings, staying with it, it passes through, and then it's like, oh, it's so important to feel the feelings. Which brings me to number 5, which is get support if you need it. You know, you can get support from counselors, therapists, coaches, anyone that can hold space for you and help you move through this time. If you could even just speak out some of the thoughts that you have about yourself, you listen to them and you're like, holy moly, that is just, what am I saying? And that's also where inner child work can be great. If I love, love, love inner child work, if you can imagine inviting in your 5-year-old self, you try telling your 5-year-old self that, you know, she's failing because she's aging. Like, it's just incomprehensible. Number 6 is to protect your mind and be careful about what you consume. With the example that I gave, how my algorithm and my feed became full of plastic surgery. You have to really look at, what are you following?
Started thinking that, is it because I'm not pretty enough? Is that why?
Well, every day I have people ask me, how do I lift my neck? If you're like so many people around the country and around the world, as you're getting older, you're seeing a little bit of droopiness.
Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. In today's video, I wanted to talk about cosmetic procedures, what I've had done and when.
Like, just think about what it is that you're consuming. And number 7 is to know that you have value beyond your physical body. And that can take some work of building your self-esteem, building up your self-worth and your self-determination and your self-compassion and your self-love. There's a famous story about Sharon Stone, how, clearly a beautiful, beautiful woman, and was adored for her beauty and renowned for her beauty, and was very used to turning heads everywhere she went. And she said to Oprah one day that she was crossing the road this one day and she knew that she'd lost it because not a single man turned their head and looked at her. And it was like a line in the sand that day. And that is what happens when your value comes from something outside of yourself, from your beauty, from your physical, and not from within. There's a beautiful affirmation, which is, I have a body, yet I am not my body. My body is a gift of this earth mother, my vehicle, my earthly temple, that I may live and be and express the love of which I am here now upon the planet. I love that so much. When I think about all the time and the energy and the life force I've spent worrying about this, it's sad. It is sad, but it's also part of my journey, and I'm so grateful to have moved through as much of it as I have. And as I said before, there's still a ways to go. But I just want to encourage you that it is so worth it. It is so, so, so worth it. If you are struggling with this, there is hope. You can heal from this, and you don't have to really waste your life with this distraction. I can't tell you the amount of times I've had patients say, don't get old, Maggie. And I say to them, what's the alternative? And they're like, true. You can get old or you can die. And most of us know someone who's died young or knows someone who died young. And personally, I just want to live a full and vibrant life with deep self-acceptance, self-love, self-compassion, and to be of service to people, to make a difference, to actually have an influence of love. If this video has brought things up for you and you'd like to talk it through, I do have a link in the description to my calendar. You're welcome to book a one-on-one session. Also, my sister and colleague Cathy and I have a group coaching program starting shortly where we take through a small group of women through one big goal or transformation. So you're welcome to find out more about that. Once again, link in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and share. It would mean the world. Perhaps share it with a loved one or someone who's struggling or someone who you just think it might help. I think it's a really important conversation to have. So let's support each other. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.